Welcome, everybody. It is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is CyberWarriorStudios presents Security Happy Hour, and we are here and we are in for another amazing episode. We got a lot of things to talk about today, and I'm sure you're all going to enjoy it. But before we get started, I'll see you in a second. And we're back. And yes, like I said, it is me, the Cyber Warrior. This is CyberWarriorStudios. And with me, as always, I have my partner in crime, my friend, my brother, the Cyber Papa, Eric Velardo. Eric, how you doing?
Hey, how's everybody doing tonight?
Oh, fantastic, man. I don't know about you.
Doing good. Doing real good. It's been an awesome week for us at Raíces. We're getting ready to go to Hacker Summer Camp. We just finished a CTF last weekend. It was amazing, and we've had the Denver chapter had their first meetup. The Arizona chapter just had a first meetup. We'll talk a lot. Oh, in Maryland, the Mid-Atlantic chapter had their first meetup too. So a lot of exciting stuff's happening for us. So I can't wait to be talking to Stacy today. So I'm so excited. So
That's awesome. Yeah, with us today, we have Stacey Champagne, CEO, founder of Hacker in Heels. An amazing person. I've been watching all of her Instagram. I know I've got some people in chat that are going to fangirl and or fanboy for you. I mean, I'm kind of a little bit of a fanboy. I've been watching quite a few of your videos, and you're doing some great things, so I can't deny that. So before we get started, Stacey, why don't you let us know kind of what got you into cyber, and then we'll jump into your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to growing up. I was very fortunate to have a family member, my grandfather, who felt the need to always have the latest and greatest thing of whatever it was. I'm sure we've all know someone in our lives that is like that. They had to be, always have the first thing, the first model, be that early adopter or whatnot. And so my grandfather always had to have the latest and greatest computer. Which meant that, especially in the 90s, the latest and greatest new computer was coming out about every couple of months. So very early on, I got to be able to get my hands onto some technology early and had my own computer pretty early on. And I think that really helped set the foundation for falling in love with technology, right? And then throughout there, through middle school and high school, I was fortunate to have my brother. I saw him participate in the first robotics competition program and was really interested and inspired by what he was doing. And so when I got to, middle school and I was eligible to join teams like that, I participated. I was really involved in FIRST for about a decade or so. However, that being said, I actually didn't want to do or thought about doing or had any, idea in my mind that if you asked me back when I was graduating high school, or you told me that I would be doing cybersecurity, I wouldn't believe you because I was so dead set on being a graphic designer. I actually was really obsessed with the idea of learning graphic design and but kind of in a cool way, because through those robotics competitions I met a recruiter, let's just say for a government agency that might have 3 letters that form its name. And when I told him, I was like, hey, I know this is a robotics competition, but I really want to go do design. I'm just here because I like doing it for fun, but I'm not going to make this a career. They were like, oh, well, we need everybody. And so I was like, well, even graphic designers? Yeah, especially graphic designers. And so that stuck with me, and I just focused on that goal for a while, and I actually got it like right away. I was like, there's only one intern spot. I got that one intern spot, and everything. But as soon as I was there, I was kind of like, well, is this it? Like, I just achieved my dream job, just like right out of the gate. There's nothing more to work towards or anything. And I knew that just wasn't, it wasn't going to keep me feeling fulfilled for the next, 20, 30, 40, which is just hilarious because I thought that I was going to retire from this agency. So thankfully I, had a little bit of that ambition and flexibility to go off and open my mind up to some other possibilities. And at this point I kind of like miss tech, and so that's when I started to consider, and especially working in an intelligence agency, oh, how are these people using these technologies to like do these really interesting attacks and things, and cyber criminals, and what are they thinking, what are their motivations, and that really helped spark the idea of considering cybersecurity as a career. So that's ultimately how I finally eventually got into it.
Yeah, that's awesome. When we got Jess Bishop here, she says, I saw a webinar almost 2 years ago exactly with
Wow.
you, part of the Day in the Life series with Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu. It helped give me the courage to career change into cyber. So when I tell you, you make a difference, you make a difference.
Wow. Well, thank you, Jess. It is, just so nice to hear that, right? And we were actually just talking before the show started about how, oftentimes when we are out there and we're doing things, we actually don't know who we're inspiring and who we're really the lives that we're helping to change, because, so many of those people, like, they take that in and they go and they do things like you did, and we don't hear about it, but we continue to do what we do in the hopes that we're exactly getting those kinds of results for people. And so I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, definitely. And she says she's a SOC analyst now. So she has achieved and finally got into cybersecurity. Just as I've been seeing her on LinkedIn and a few other things. So she's doing a lot of big things, and it's all thanks to you.
Wow.
And your inspiration.
You.
So things like that matter. So talking about that, I found you and asked you to come on because of Hacker in Heels. I saw a lot of the content you were putting out, a lot of the things you were doing with the organization, and realized I need to get you on because you're doing some amazing things that other people need to hear about that may not know about you. So explain to me what Hacker in Heels is so that everybody else understands.
Yeah. So Hacker in Heels, we help women launch and grow their cybersecurity careers. And that's the reason why I kind of gave the long-winded explanation of how I got into cybersecurity, is because Hacker in Heels was founded on the idea that we could take women who are in careers that are no longer serving them, whether they're underpaid, whether it just, the schedule, the work, the values, if there's just a misalignment in what they thought their life would look like and be doing, and how their career is playing into it or not playing into it and causing friction and whatnot, that we could take these women who are teachers, who are administrative professionals, who are salespeople, just in all these other professions, design, whatnot, and show them how their skills can be transferable into cybersecurity, and in fact really show them the value that they can bring to cybersecurity because they are coming with a different skill set. Because the reality is that in cybersecurity, we need people who are just as creative as the cyber criminals. So if we all come into cybersecurity with a cookie cutter background, we're never going to be able to outsmart the people who we're trying to defend against.
Yeah, you're spot on right there, Stacy. And we've said it. It's a diversity of thought, and just the way the different upbringings and coming from different places. For instance, look at Alyssa Miller right now. She's a CISO, and she was at one time a barista before she transferred into cybersecurity.
Yep.
So these things are very possible. And so with what you're doing, what would you say is one of the biggest factors of Hacker in Heels, of like the message you try to get across, right? Beyond the fact that you're able to do it, what is some of those contributing factors that you would say is one of the biggest key differences in the current mindset versus what you try to point out to them?
Yeah, so I try to take a holistic approach to when I am working with women on considering careers in cybersecurity. So a lot of these organizations that are out there today really kind of push a one-track solution when it comes to trying to funnel people into this industry. So usually they're focused on that like SOC analyst role, just very narrowed skill sets of just trying to get you the bare minimum basics to then just get you the seat in the SOC, and then you can like figure things out from there, I guess. But that's not how you sell to people, and that's not necessarily how you inspire people either, by selling this one role. Like, we do a disservice if we don't highlight all of the other domains and opportunity areas within cybersecurity. So that's one thing of like really help and really assuring people that like you don't have to be technical, you don't have to know how to code. I like to think that I am mostly successful in cybersecurity, and aside from a few brown bag Python sessions, like I don't really know how to code, and I feel comfortable announcing that to the world. But I can definitely carve a file by hand using, Forensic Explorer, and that's probably a lot more applicable to the type of work that I do as an investigator, right? And so really just providing that assurance, and also providing the honesty that this field is not all sunshine and rainbows either. And so what's really important to me is to help mentor and support women in such a way to prepare them and build their resilience for the things that inevitably happen, unfortunately, with the field that we're in. Now, there are things that happen here that can happen to women in technology in general, to women in the workplace in general, but I think we do a huge disservice when we, say, come to cybersecurity, we want you, we welcome you, and then they get in here and all of a sudden they're faced with this bias, they're being pushed down. They've got, women with queen bee syndrome, not actually helping to elevate them. And, they go through their first, PIP, or, some sort of negative performance review, or, they're fired or they're laid off, and they think it's the end of the world, and they just get tired of it and they leave. Right. And that helps nobody. That, the solution is not to leave. If we're not helping these people, if we're not helping women get through these situations, we're never going to be able to get the representation we need at the top to be able to influence and change all these systems that are causing these outcomes.
Yeah, and one of the points that you made was just on the money that we say all the time. We have a really bad PR problem in the field of cybersecurity.
Mhm.
People think, oh, I want to learn cybersecurity. Well, cybersecurity is a field, not a job.
Mhm.
There's 50 plus jobs in the field. So some are very technical, some are not very technical, some are more artistic. There's teachers, there's designers, there's coders, but you nailed it with, you don't need a degree. You don't need to know how to code. There's space for you here in the field of cyber, and we've got to take that message out and make our people, be it women, be it minorities, be it anybody, be resilient,
Mhm.
because we do have a problem with a lot of gatekeepers in this
Mhm.
field.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And on that point, that resilience is a big thing. It's a big key factor for me. You know, I don't care who you are. I don't care where you come from. Even I myself, that resilience plays a role, because there's times in my career where I've looked at something and been like, I can't do this. Or I get a bad review or something like that. And I'm like, why am I here? What's the point? You don't care about what I bring to the table. So why am I here? 13 years of military service, I've had good reviews and I've had bad reviews. It happens. You have to develop that resiliency in you to know that you belong, to combat that imposter syndrome, to combat all that, negativity that is in your life. And so you just need to be human to be on cyber. And that's it. Be a human being. And so you talked about a lot of kind of the issues that women face in terms of belonging, and some of that is salary, some of that can be a countless other things. Um, with that, what is one of the biggest key factors you try to help women with in terms of, say, like salary negotiation? Because that is a huge issue. And so how do you help them realize that that job that they're applying for, that they're interviewing for, is actually worth more than they think it's worth.
Yeah. I first and foremost try to remind them that if they're getting an offer, the company wants them, right? And so that's key. From there, really getting that confidence in your worth is really important. That comes even before the negotiation process, is understanding and knowing what your worth is, and knowing that you can provide value, you have value. Research the market, see what the market is providing. And my favorite thing to do, and to kind of like ask and play the game with myself, is when you see a range, okay, so there's a range, right? Are you an average person, or do you think you bring more than average to the table, right? So just right off the bat, look at that range. 50, go for the middle there. And that's what your, C-level person, like, just shows up, gets the job done type thing. Like, kind of like put the pin in there that's something you'd be shooting for if you're just, doing the bare minimum, right? Now think to yourself, like, but I do more than the bare minimum. I add all this value, all these skills to this thing. So I'm obviously going to shoot for a little bit more than the middle. But, like, so many people play out these mind games of like, oh, I can't ask for too much. And, I'm not worth it. And, they just psych themselves out. Right. And so that can be really helpful.
I'm going to take you. He went for the salary negotiations first. I was going to ask you the question of, we hear a lot through the women in our organizations and stuff about the challenge that women will not apply for certain jobs because they don't fit the entire job rec. And, we tell them, listen, if you have 75% and you feel confident that you can go and learn the other 25, apply. You don't have to be a perfect match. And how do you talk to your members to say, look, apply? It's a numbers game.
I think the women that are in our community are confident enough to apply. Like, I honestly, I feel like that is potentially a soundbite that's overused. That it's something that we've been talking about for years now. And the reality is, I hear all these women are indeed applying to jobs, right? They're just not getting the interviews. They're not getting past, the screeners and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think I have a little bit of a different take
to send to you, because I've heard that statement from women in our organization this last couple of weeks.
Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, like I said, I've heard both sides of it, right? There's some people that are still repeating that. There's some people that are saying, like, no, that's old news. Like, the women are applying, you're just not interviewing them. I mean, I think to my own experience right now of applying to tons and tons of jobs, and it's incredible to me the amount of insider risk positions that I'm getting denied from without even a singular phone call when you look at my accolades, right? And so I think sometimes we use the crutch. It's kind of similar to the argument of like, well, I just can't find the women. Like, they're just not out there. Like, where are they? Well, they're definitely out there. You just don't have an organization that is attracting them to want to work for you. Like, you can absolutely staff your team with 50% women. It's just going to require you to attract them from the other organizations. And those organizations are, unfortunately, they're going to have less, but like, you can do it. Don't let the whole, like, this idea, like, they don't exist out there, be your crutch and be your excuse.
And currently it's only 24% of women in the cybersecurity workforce. It's pretty bad. The numbers are pretty bad out there. We've got 4% in Hispanics that are self-identified as Hispanics in the field of cyber.
But they're out there. Like, they're with your organization. They're with my organization. It is incredible to me how much time we spend talking about how they're not out there. We can't find them, and we complain about it. And then I just, go to a women in cybersecurity conference, or go, join a Facebook group, or go, like, participate. Like, they're not hiding under a rock. We're all out here.
Lies and deceit. They don't exist. What are you talking about?
But like all the same people that complain, I don't see them putting the effort in to even go and try to connect with these people, to go connect with women. They expect me to go connect with them for them, and or they just expect for them to show up on their doorstep because they're so great or whatever. And it's like, no, you as an organization need to show how you're going to provide value to them if they choose to work with you. You know, how
So
are you going to provide them psychological safety? How are you going to grow and advance their careers? Like all these organizations just think that you're blessed to be able to work for them. And it's
Yep.
just crazy.
so
And we're
so let me
smarter
ask
than that. So we don't fall for it. So
so let me ask you a question on that front though, because you're saying organizations need to come up front about how they provide for women or how they
Mhm.
provide for other ethnicities and things of that nature. Me looking at a job, I don't look at anything other than can I do the job? I
Mhm.
don't look at mental health. I look at my work life balance and I look at salary and what the job is. Those are the three things I look at. And again, this is me. So, how can an organization, when you say an organization needs to show that they're open for women, how can someone do that? Because I'm looking for blue teamers. I wish blue teamers would apply to the organization that I work for. I need more. So how can an organization put out there that I want everybody? Like
Mhm.
how does that work?
You can disclose your numbers, but the reality is that, you know, if you're just starting out on this journey, your numbers may not look too great, right? In regards to your representation. But also like showing how many people you promoted, like how many of different demographics did you promote and how many underrepresented individuals have you promoted in the last 6-12 months, whatnot. um you know, those kinds of statistics can help. Talking about you know, tuition assistance and other sort of educational and development benefits, those kinds of things. Even just like being clear about how you all measure and define success and ensuring that there is a objective performance management process can be
Hmm.
really helpful, because too many places the performance management process is just so completely subjective, right? And it might be objective on paper but subjective in practice. And so being able to show how, all these different ways, being able to you know, talk to different sorts of you know, benefits and understandings around flexible work and stuff like that, because you know, the reality is for right now there's still a lot of additional expectations being put onto women who very much want to be able to join your team, to join many companies, but due to the you know, the additional labor at home, like the expectations around childcare and whatnot, and women bearing the brunt of a lot of these other you know, at home responsibilities or caregiver responsibilities. You know, it's hard to show up in an organization that touts and clearly promotes people in a more of a meritocracy way, that really just rewards like the people who are just constantly available and don't actually have good boundaries, and you know, are just continually playing the political game. How can someone show up to your organization, or how can you demonstrate to someone that like, we're not going to measure you for whether or not you're sitting in your seat, how quickly you respond to your Slack messages, you know, like all of those kinds of things? How can you actually show that you understand that these people are human, and you respect them and you respect their boundaries, and that you're looking for, you know, work quality, not
Right.
all of these other superficial things that we think you know, qualifies someone as being a good worker.
Yeah, definitely. And we've had those discussions where I work, you know, going to changing the way things are done. It's a small organization. I don't bring up
Mhm.
where I work. I don't mix business with my company, but I I do need people. So I'm just throwing
Well,
that out there. But I will
I'm
say
going to
that is
show
one of the
you.
things that
I was going to show you. So where I work, they have done a very good job about cultivating these things from
mhm,
the CEO. So I'm going to show you something, and I want to see how you react to this. Okay. These are the
can't say
moon
that and
shots
not
for
show it.
where I work.
Let's see, I'll make my screen a little bigger. Okay, that's a good goal.
These are the goals that they've identified, and they're working through this. And they have various groups actually working for this. And this is something that not only they advertise, but they present in weekly. There's meetings and resource and gathering and how do we do things. It's been very interesting to work for the first time in my life in a company that this is one of their guiding principles at the C level. So,
But my question back, like, this is all nice and this sounds wonderful, right? What is the mechanisms for accountability for it? What happens if they are not meeting these goals, if they're falling behind, if there are women or other underrepresented individuals
being
reporting that
presented
they are
every quarter,
what was that?
measured. It is being presented and measured every quarter.
Okay, but are people getting fired? Like, are the bad managers being walked out? Because that's very real.
Oh,
That happens.
again, you're don't mix two things, because you've got bad managers that have bias and unconscious bias and are doing these things. That's that's something that they're very strong at in that company. But having a lot of companies don't even have a goal for diversity. They don't have a goal for inclusion. They don't have goals for they're talking, but they're not doing. And as a matter of fact, during DEF CON, we're going to have a panel discussion with about 5 organizations during the Black Girls Hack Village at 1:30 on Friday. And we're going to be talking about this topic, about diversity and inclusion and stuff like that. So I'll invite you to that.
Yeah, I just want to know what's being like done and where the accountability is, because I've listened to organizations say for years that they're going to get X amount of representation, and then a year goes by and the number doesn't move, and another year goes by and the number doesn't move, and they blame it on all these things while all the women are sitting there being like, we can tell you exactly why that number is not moving. It's because you've got bad people, bad processes that need to change. But they're like, no, we don't want to hear that, you know? And
Well,
so until there's actual accountability behind these goals, they're just wishes.
and there are, and some organizations are doing better than others. I've seen the worst of the worst, and I've seen some good organizations. So we are trying to move the needle, and we're trying to move the needle at the higher levels, at the middle managers, and at the hiring, at the HR levels in different organizations.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot that can be done. There's always going to be a lot that can be done. Nothing's ever going to be. I don't believe in perfection. I believe we can get as close to it as possible, but nothing is ever going to be perfect for everybody. I think we need to get closer, and I think we need to get closer to that equality, in that everybody has a voice, everybody has a say, everybody has a seat at the table. And I think at least that needs to happen. I don't know personally if everybody will ever see eye to eye on how anything can be done, because there's always going to be defectors and people that don't agree with one thing or another. Part of that is going to be and just to play, companies love talking about diversity, but few actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, and look at it this way. If we're to talk about bringing more to the table and doing more, if you look at things from an eye of, let's put it out this way, of, okay, I have a job opening and I get 15 applications, right? Or 15 people apply for it. There's a mix. Do I specifically target those just because of the way they look, or do I look at everything? And if the woman or the minority is great, I'm gonna hire them. I'm gonna interview them. I'm gonna put them through the process and get them there. But if they don't meet the same standard as somebody else, like maybe they're missing the experience, or it's a level 3 and they have the experience of level 1, like not even in lab environments have they done the same amount of work. Do I look at them solely based on that aspect? And that, I think, is the fear of some people, is that if we start trying to say we need this percentage just to make things diverse, okay, are we hiring based on diversity or are we hiring based on qualifications? And that is the fear that I have looking at some of these things, is people are going to start really looking at it as they got hired based on how they look, not based on their qualifications. Even though their qualifications can be through the roof, that's going to be the stigma that comes from some of this information.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a false belief that it's one or the other, that it's a binary thing. Either they're qualified or they got it because of, their gender or their skin or whatever. When the reality is you can be a woman and be very qualified for your position.
Right. And that's my point, is because we are putting a lot of effort into raising this diversity bar, right? Like bringing more and more people in. And I completely agree with that. But because we're looking at numbers, like let's say, for instance, we had an organization of 10 people. 2 were women, 2 were minorities, the rest were white males, right? Well, now that doesn't meet the numbers of, well, you should have 30% or 40% or 50% of a certain demographic. That, I think, is the fear, is people start looking and disregarding others because I have to have diversity. They're not looking at skill sets anymore. And I think this is where part of that issue comes into play with some people, is they're afraid to look at everybody because I have to be diverse. So now I'm going to take that first candidate that comes in that gives me that diversity number. That is my fear of what I think some of these organizations are going to do.
Yeah, I mean,
and then it looks bad because if they get fired, then it's, I got fired because I look this way, not because I couldn't do my job.
I think we also forget too why we're hiring for diversity, right? We're hiring for diversity because it is proven time and time again in plenty of studies that when you have a more diverse team, when you have people that join your team that may have the exact same skill sets, but have a different identity, that they can provide a different lens and a different way of looking at problems that you would miss out on if you just continue to hire the same cookie cutter people. Right. And so I think, when we're having these conversations and it's like, okay, so I have a man and a woman and all their qualifications are the same, but I'm going to hire a woman because she's a woman. No, that's not why you're hiring a woman. You're hiring a woman because of the lived experiences that we've gone through in our lives that make us very good at assessing risk, that make us very good at protecting our information, like the things that we have to deal with online to exist in on the internet, like that's all very much translatable to being good at cybersecurity that people of other identities won't ever have to experience because of how they identify, because of how they look and whatnot. And so I think we skim over that when we, are saying like, we're going to choose the woman to have the numbers. No, we're going to choose the women because they're going to bring a way of approaching these problems, or perhaps because they represent the very people who we're trying to protect. Women make up 51% of the population. Like, you want to have women in there. You want to have all of these identities in there, the people who you're trying to protect, so that they can provide that lens in the solutions that you engineer to protect them, to know whether or not they're going to work for them or not.
And I love the fact that you said that, and the fact that we got back around to the fact that it's a diversity of thought. You have a different upbringing, a different way that you've lived your life, a different experiences and different lived life experiences. Because, and you can ask Eric, I've been a big proponent of, we need those different experiences, because you could take me, who grew up in, Mount Oliver of the South Hills of Pittsburgh, 2 streets away from, this gang and that other gang. And I have a different way of how I live my life than maybe someone who grew up in the suburbs, maybe than a woman who grew up in California, or, someone that came over like Eric from Puerto Rico or something like that. It's all a different upbringing experience. It's going to make your mind work differently. You're going to think about the attacker mindset differently, how we can fix problems differently. And that is one of the things which is when we talk about DEI, when we talk about diversity and equity inclusion, I think we need to start looking more on that thought process, more on what in the brain, what mentally and the thoughts that are different versus let's not just the skin tone or just the just the fact they're a woman. It's not that. It's that
Mhm.
diversity of thought from that matters. It's not the gender, the way they look. It's what's in their head that makes the difference.
And Stacy, one of the diversity on one of their DEI working groups that we had last month, we talked about the challenge of the middle manager. We called it the challenge of the middle manager. The middle manager wants a person that is a purple unicorn that is like 5 persons in one.
Mhm.
And they're looking at this list of requirements, and they're going through this list of requirements and not thinking about the intangibles of the people, which is what you just talked about. Tell me, what is your thought about how do we attack the problem of that middle manager that's looking for this perfect person that's going to fit in this role and do 15 different things?
Yeah, the middle manager's got to go back and get some leadership training, and too often we put people into management positions without any. Um, it sounds to me that the middle manager has a different hasn't quite learned how to scout talent and how like the importance of those competencies and those things that really as an organization you would struggle to be able to train and really help on, but like is just so essential and valuable to have from an employee versus the technical things of like, oh, they haven't used Splunk before. Well, you can give them, let them go do the Splunk certification thing for a week and then they'll be good to go, right? But if this is a person who doesn't share the same values of your organization, who has a working style that doesn't align with your team or whatnot, then it's not going to work out in the long run. So I think that is really like that's what always frustrates me, is because we have, especially with women, there are so many women who bring such great eyes and ears and competencies and talents to teams, but they just haven't had the same opportunities to do some of those technical, do some of that technical work, some of that hands-on technical training, or, pay $7,000 for a SANS cert or whatever. But
I think
that
it's
doesn't
10.
mean that if you just
You're
give them a
underbidding
week.
it. It's 10. It's 10.
Yeah,
It's 10
yeah,
grand.
I know. You can see I haven't looked at it in a while because like
So
I'm way out of there.
so we got Jess Bishop down below. Hiring managers and leadership need to support the
Mm,
hires and squash the whispers of she only got the job because or other hire. Otherwise, culturally, diversity will never succeed. And diversity culture, I ran out of space. And she's right, right on the money. Look, I work with some great women. I work with people of all. I mean, we're a small team, so I can't say we have everybody. We're still like, I don't know, 15 people or something like that. So
mm,
we're very tiny, but I've got great women that work on a team. I've got men. I've got as much as we've had in the little bit of time we've been growing.
mm.
So it's one of those things where I look to the women of like, yo, what am I messing up? Like, I got to fix something and I don't know what it is because I feel like I'm missing something here.
And that's okay to ask us. Like we want to be asked, but there's a certain way and there's a certain boundary where like
Yeah.
you have to show me first, because there is like so much out there on the internet. There are plenty of trainings, there's plenty of books you can read, there's plenty of places and thought leaders that you can go follow and whatnot to get some really good guidance from. But if I don't see you making an effort yourself and you're
Mhm.
relying on me to do the labor of teaching you while I also need to do my job, like that just
Oh,
doesn't.
no. I'm talking about I reach out to them for like knowledge on their career and like their job and like things that I don't know. Like
Yeah.
they're smarter than me in certain things. And I'm just like, hey, help. I missed something here. And you're smarter. Like you know this shit. I don't. And that's some of the things that people fail to realize is like it's okay to reach out to someone that looks different than you because they're smarter than you. And I ain't gonna say necessarily smarter. They just know something you don't know. And we're so
Yeah.
afraid of that. We're afraid of reaching out to people that know something we don't know.
Well, because we pit people against each other in companies. So, I mean, obviously, you're gonna be afraid to show vulnerability. We've done a huge disservice for. I mean, women, I think for the most part, are really good um, at having vulnerable conversations, but with men, we haven't allowed it for decades. If you have to squash that, you have to squash any sort of type of um, you know weakness or whatnot. And so I think that really translates into the workplace too, where people have to beat their chests and try to show that they know everything and all of that. And um, I think that's where we end up in this situation where we all lose out of it, by not helping support and really promote that the more human side and the softer side of our skills and our communication and whatnot. We just end up in these situations where people don't share and they don't support each other.
Yeah, for sure. And look, the only time I ever show weakness is to my wife, and even that's rarely. I get in trouble for it all the time. But you're right. It is how we're raised. It's how the culture is. Granted, people who follow me on Twitter have seen me in some down times, but it's few and far between. That's usually in a drunken video that I create and decide I'm going to post this anyways. But no, it's really been, my wife is my go-to. Like if I'm messed up, it's either her or my brother from the army. Those are the only two people. But John, and I've actually made this point before. I haven't stated it publicly, but it's one of the thoughts I've had. John Good puts up here, and it's a valid point. Dang it, Eric. What if you evaluate candidates on their written experience, resume, and skill-based, practical, vendor-neutral evaluations and rank them on ability before you even do an interview or know their name? And I think, and I have always said, if you pull name, gender, race, ethnicity, all that stuff off a resume and off of an application and rank people initially based on the initial qualifications, it would take away at least that initial interview part, that unconscious bias, that bias versus, oh, I see this name, so they must be this race, or I see this name, so they must be a woman, or whatever the case may be. I think that's a valid way to do things. And honestly, I don't see why we can't.
Yeah, I'm all for it. There's plenty of studies that show that usually works out, right? There's also a good story. I remember one of the first cybersecurity conferences I went to was like an ISACA conference in DC, and Tyler Cohen Woods spoke as she was one of the speakers. But just as I say her name, Tyler Cohen Woods, what gender would you assume? Yeah.
That's
and so she told the story of how she was applying to opportunities and how people would be shocked when they would see her because they didn't expect it to be, a woman, right? And I think, one of the stories goes is like she basically got all the way to getting the offer before they figured out that like she was a woman. So yeah, I think the reason why we don't do it though is because this industry just runs on referrals and the behind the scenes networks and whatnot, which has its pros and cons.
Well, I'll give you another perspective on
give
that.
Give me one more perspective, and then we need to talk about up leveling. We got 15 minutes left, so we got to hit that topic too.
Perspective. A lot of people learn differently. So when some people don't do very well on exams, okay, so you're handcuffing, in that equality thing, you're handcuffing people that may not neurodiverse or something like that don't do very well with exams or online tests or something like that. I know I don't. And I've been doing this for 33 years. And you put me in front of a test and I'm like,
old.
I agree with that. I think that there are some ridiculous assessment platforms out there that just need to go away. I don't know who thought it was a good idea or how it even relates to the job that the people are trying to do. The stories
I
that
have foregone jobs that say, okay, well, we want you to do this evaluation on this platform over here. I say, "Psst, next.
Yep.
Okay.
That's me.
So yes, the thought of taking a resume or taking a experience or taking something and taking out the name and anonymizing it and doing that so that we can get the best candidate instead of a person or a woman or a man or white, black, green, just it's great idea. It's how do we put it into practice that it's equal.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, go.
So we said we were going to talk about up leveling your career. So I would like you first to explain what you mean by up leveling your career.
Yeah. So, I mean, getting to a point where you can attract opportunities to you that will strategically continue to boost your value and, help you in making the case to go to further levels, rising up to a manager, rising up into that senior leadership and whatnot. And so the way I usually structure my strategy and how I advise others to structure their strategy is around like these three key things, and that's clarity, competence, and connection. And so the clarity is getting clear on what it is you want to do and what you want for your life, especially too getting clear on how you like to work, how you best work, all of those, both like personal and professional type attributes. Because if whatever you're aspiring to do, if it doesn't align with how you like to work and what you want to get out of life, you're not going to be successful at it. So that's really the first key. And then especially from the cybersecurity part of it, just kind of like how you mentioned at the beginning, like it's not enough to just say you want to like go into cybersecurity, but like what domains interest you? What specifically about cybersecurity? If you just show up and you tell me that you are interested in cybersecurity, I'm gonna be like, I don't know how to help you because you haven't given me enough information yet to really give you any sort of direction. So that first, and then the competence part is obviously that skill building of, practicing in lab environments, earning certifications, going to school if you need to. But again, also, as we had mentioned, it really depends on what you want to do as to whether or not you need to do certain things, right? Like if you are a teacher and you want to get into security awareness, I mean, you don't have to go get a cybersecurity degree. Just go ahead and like do a security plus or something and get your fundamentals and then start applying to the jobs. Because I mean, for me, like I think what's more important in security awareness, we can teach you the security part really easy, but if we need someone who knows how to teach and who can connect with the company and with the people in the company and can get through to people. And that's a certain art and science that like you take someone with a cybersecurity degree and you try to stick them in there and they're not going to be as successful doing it. Like adult education is a thing. So getting clear on like what you need to do from a skill building perspective and then doing that. And then the last thing is that connection of getting involved in groups, going to meetups, joining organizations like Hacker and Heels, like Women in Cybersecurity, whatnot, to begin to like build those connections. And I say like, if you're a person that like doesn't really want to like go out or you don't have time to go out, that's fine too. You can actually build connections in 5-10 minutes a day. I think that's how, we're all here, is just being active on social media. Pick a platform that you enjoy being on, build out your profile on there and start demonstrating your expertise with posts. You can share others people's posts and give your own take on like why you agree with them, why you don't agree with them, how you might look at the issue differently and whatnot. And it's just really easy to start having conversations and putting yourself top of mind in the community, so that way when the community sees an opportunity, they think of you and then you get connected to it. I mean, that's how I got my last 3 jobs. I didn't apply to any of them. Some of them weren't even ever posted on a website. It was all because I'm just active and out there and I'm providing some sort of value into the community. I'm showing my expertise and then supporting the community, and the community in turn will support you back.
Definitely. I completely agree. And it's funny because we're going to have one of my other friends on here in the, we're going to have another friend of mine on here in the next couple months. She's doing some really big things. Meryl Vernon, she was on a few months back. She's coming back on. And lately she's been talking about branding. And that's been one of my big things, is whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever other platform you want to use, Instagram, TikTok, it doesn't matter. However you want to brand yourself and get information out there. I don't care what you look like. That is how you get your name known. That is how people reach out to you. So there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I need a job in this. And they'll say cybersecurity or IT, or I just lost my job. Okay, cool. I've never seen you before. I'll share your post maybe to help you out, but I don't know anything about you. I've never seen anything else you've put out. One of my contacts just happened to like or, leave some comment of sharing for visibility or whatever the case may be. So if I know you, I'm by all means, I will sit there, and if a job comes around, I'm like, hey, I need someone for this role. You looking for work? You need a job? Like that type of thing versus, someone who just is like, I need a job, and I've never seen a post. I've never seen a YouTube video. I've never seen an Instagram reel. I've never seen anything about you. So I'm going based on what I read on either your experience or what you send me in a resume. I'm still going to Google your name.
Yeah, this might sound a little harsh, but I go by the motto of make friends before you need them.
Yep.
And so build out those networks.
Build out a community. And as a matter of fact, that's our topic for Summer of Cyber tomorrow on our Discord.
We have a few communities, KevTech and Hacker Valley Media and Raices and CyberWarriorStudios. We all have Discord communities. Trust me. Oh, they exist. And having that community is very, very vital. It's how I got my job. I knew I needed another job in 2020 and reached out to one of the co-founders of the organization that I'm working for now and was like, hey, I'm going to be needing a job here within the next month. I don't have a role yet. Give me a week. And in a week, he was like, okay, apply to this. Okay, cool. And there it was. So to go through the interview, they still interviewed a ton of other people. And I went through the process, and I had to beat everybody out in terms of what I knew. But it was still one of those things where I knew I had someone I can lean on and be like, hey, look, I'm looking for work. Do you have anything? Because he already knew me. And that's what people need to do, is build that community. That's how you up level, in my opinion, is build that community. And you'll get there. People will reach out to you for work. Be like, hey, I'm hiring. You need a job that pays 50 grand more? I got you.
And people will make a role around you too. Like, you'd be surprised, especially with the struggles with talent in this industry, if they see that a good person is on the market, and this is a person that has demonstrated expertise in different domains and a solid understanding of cybersecurity, then if, as long as the individual is potentially willing to learn another domain or go into a different area of cybersecurity, you can potentially get a chance to even just broaden your skill sets, because they can look at what you've done so far and say, well, it looks like they've been very successful and they've shown how successful they've been at this. So I feel more comfortable. I feel comfortable giving them the chance to try out this. And then it's a win-win.
Exactly. And that's really what it comes down to. If you have that, and I don't like preaching certifications or degrees or anything like that. I don't like preaching those types of things, because you can use experience in the same context. Mm-hmm. But if in any type of platform, whether it be blogs, YouTube videos, posts, experience, certification, something, if you show me you have had the ability to learn in one area, I know you have the ability to learn another area. And that's what it is. As long as you're willing to do the job, I know you'll learn the job. But I have to know you have that ability. And if nothing has shown me your ability to learn, then I just got to hope you have the experience in the field that I'm hiring for. And that's where some of those issues come in, with certain jobs, because it's like an MSSP might have a sim one day, and a person is an expert in that, but has never learned anything else. They just know that one particular vendor. And now all of a sudden, a new vendor comes in, and it's like, oh shit, I don't know this.
And I don't want people to run out there and think now they need to have 500 certifications either to
No,
like
and that's
demonstrate
my
cross
big thing.
domain expertise, because that's also in a way gatekeeping too, right? When
Correct.
we expect all these certifications, and it's like, well, what if they were working somewhere that wouldn't sponsor them to get these certifications?
Correct.
Like, it's not their fault that they don't have these certifications or that they can't do it because they don't have this particular certification. So just watching out for how, different, economic situations can play into whether or not someone has a very robust credentialing resume. Like, again, look to what you talked about, like, are they demonstrating expertise and understanding in other ways, in the free ways, blogs, social media, whatnot?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's what it
learn.
is.
We try to tell them, learn in public. If you do a try hack me, or you do a CTF, or you do something that you're learning, a Udemy course or something like that, put it on your resume, put it on your blog, put it on your LinkedIn, talk about it. I did this and I learned this, because it's a body of education.
Yep.
It might be non-traditional education, but it's showing what you're learning, and it's upskilling you. And sometimes those are more valuable because it's
Mhm.
hands-on keyboard.
And I think in this career field, we give more, at least I've noticed a lot more people lately are giving more credit to the free training that you're promoting on your own. If you were going about writing about what you learned, what you did, how you did it, these different things. If you're doing a blog post or a LinkedIn post, like, hey, I did this Udemy course or this LinkedIn training, and it taught me all these great things. I'm now going to build a lab and try it out on my own and do this stuff. That shows that A, you're willing to learn, and B, you're trying to perfect your craft. Whereas if you're just going to sit there and tell me you got a degree and expect me to hire you, I've told every student in college, you better be getting out there and networking and doing something to prove you know something beyond just the book work, because the book work is behind what we're doing today.
And
And
unfortunately, a lot of teams are so, understaffed to where, I can bring up the really hot topic of, and we only have a couple minutes to actually go through it.
I'll run over it. It's
The
okay. I
hot
ain't worried about it.
topic of, what was I going to say? Like the entry level jobs, and we can't bring in junior talent because we don't have time to train them, right? And so and so, like, I I understand what you're saying, because I do agree it is not fair to bring someone into an organization if you do not have the infrastructure set up and prepared to be able to support them and mentor them and whatnot. However, there is a pool of people who are self-starters that literally just need access into your organization to be able to then hit the ground running and do stuff.
I told a series of congressmen just a few weeks ago, I said, look, we talk about 500,000 openings in cybersecurity. You've got a pool of people that are training, that are doing search, that are doing this, and then they hit a wall when they go to apply that says, well, you've got the training, but you don't have any experience. They're ready made. We got a pool of people there, minorities, women, just countless people out there. Give him a chance. Instead of looking for that senior that can do it all, with that same amount of money, you can hire 3 entry levels that can be trained, and they can do much more than that. And they were like, oh, I didn't know this was happening. And it's like, okay.
Where were
Well,
you? But
right.
it's
And
also
that,
because too, we've gotten to a point where we expect the manager, like it's the player coach analogy, where all of the managers are expected to be players at the same time. And so we lose out on the opportunity of leveraging exponential output. When you have a good coach to teach these 3 junior people, you will get more work than if you just rely on that manager to be managing and coaching.
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
and that's a big thing, is trying to get to that point. And I do understand. You always do that while I'm talking, Eric.
I
Damn
don't.
you.
Nobody cares what you say. Come on.
But I do agree, and it is one of those things where you have to look at it. But I do take into account the fact that as a manager, you're not supposed to be on the field playing, right? You're just there to lead the people, and then you have your coaches that are your leads, that are your more senior people that are there to mentor. But the problem comes in where those leads, those seniors, are doing all the work. And so even if you bring in a junior that has never done something before, they might take one thing off your hands, but you still got to do all your work plus mentor them. So it's getting that one or two extra seniors in there that allow that ability to mentor the juniors to get them, because they're but again, it all comes down to what the role is. If we're talking something like a sim engineer, okay, I just got to teach you the sim. I gotta mentor you on how to work within this. But if you're talking a more generalist consulting role, okay, now I've got to have you understand vulnerability management and sim engineering and 10 other different things that a consultant has to deal with. So it really depends on the role and what you're applying for as a junior. Are you applying as a junior analyst that someone's not hiring for some reason? Or are you applying as someone who is supposed to know 10 different areas of the field, but you may know half of one area? And that's where I think that the difference comes in. God damn it, Eric. You always fucking with me, homie.
Hey, they're all asking for Dancing Granny. And you know it's time. You know it's time. Look,
I love you, but you're killing me, Smalls. And yes, you are Smalls because you're a hell of a lot smaller than me. So, but yeah, I do, Stacy. I think there's a lot that can be done. And I do think up leveling, whether it's, I think networking is the biggest way to do it. I do. I think putting your name out there. Honestly, I'm glad I'm on Instagram these days because that's how I found you. I had never seen a Stacey Champagne post on LinkedIn until you started tagging me in them or sharing mine. But I found Hacker in Heels on Instagram just by following Cybersecurity.
That is great to hear because I have been resisting doing reels for the longest time, but I'm in a women to the power of community. I'm in a women entrepreneurs group, and the other women are starting to put reels out there for their companies. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to suck at it, and it's going to not look great, and it's probably just, not going to go anywhere, and it's fine. I'll just get it as I practice it more, right? And lo and behold, first couple ones probably flopped, but then after that, thousands of views and whatnot. And so it just speaks to this idea of like how powerful it can be to, as you're going through this and as you're trying to break into cybersecurity, and even as you're trying to get to the next level, find those people who are just a couple of steps ahead of you and try to be part of their circles so that they can inspire you, and then bring in the people who are a couple of steps behind you. Because the magic of if you can find people that are just all around in that area to inspire, and also you get inspired by someone and someone is inspired by you, it just boosts your confidence. You just go and you do things and you reach people clearly that you would never have thought, and you do things you never thought you were able to do and make the difference that you otherwise wouldn't make.
Perfect. Practice
Mm-hmm.
makes perfect. Keep on doing them. You're going to get better. The same thing with cybersecurity. You're going to get better. The more you do it, the more you practice. Do it.
I feel like my cybersecurity humor is really up leveling with every reel that I do.
It is. Look, I love your reels. Actually, there's another one I am going to point out there. There is another one that came across my path today. Cybersec Daisy. I don't know if you're following her, but I started sharing her posts on my stories, her reels, because I was like, this shit is awesome.
Yeah.
Like she literally put something out there about how to change the admin password on your home router because people don't do it. And I was like, fucking money. I know people that aren't even cybersecurity that follow me. Let's throw this up there and help them out. So things like that, like every little bit helps. And that's the big thing. So putting yourself out there. And again, it doesn't have to be for money. You don't have to do something or create content to make money from content. You do it to get your name out there so people like myself, Eric, Stacy, and so many others can see you on LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram. I'm not going to bring up the other one that does shorts, but you know, all these different areas. And guess what? Once your name's out there and you start doing things consistently, we remember you. We know
and you can eventually get money from it. Like that's the other thing too.
Exactly.
Is like I'm very, very much pro like charging
Make your
worth,
money.
getting your worth, making your money. And so there is a certain component of like putting out, you know, some free stuff to show that like this is what I can do for you. This is the value that I can bring. This is my knowledge, and demonstrating that. But you know, you get to a point where you know, you're being asked to present at conferences and whatnot, like you're worth something.
I'm still
Like,
waiting to get
charge
that
your
phone
worth
call,
there.
Stacy. Stacy, make some calls and get me a call. Come on now.
You just gotta ask. You just have to ask half of the time. Great. I'm glad. I feel so, you know, fortunate that you want me to speak at your conference. What's the speaker budget?
Yeah. I haven't even been asked to speak at a conference, but that could be because I drink and I don't watch my mouth when I'm on camera. So
you'll track that opportunity one day.
It'll eventually happen. Somebody will be like, I like him. He don't give a fuck. Yeah, you're right. I don't. But no, it's been a pleasure having you on. And seriously, follow Hacker and Heels on Instagram. Follow Hacker and Heels on LinkedIn. She's on Twitter too, even though she doesn't use it. Stacy. Stacy Champagne. She's on LinkedIn as well. I do have all of her links down below in the description of this YouTube video. If you're on podcast, it's also going to be in the description of the podcast. If you're on Twitch, I'm sorry, there's no descriptions for Twitch, but everything else has a description, so you'll see all the links there. Otherwise, it's been a blast. So before we go, Stacy, any last words?
I would say I think we touched upon the personal branding and really the power of that community and network. So please, if you are out there by yourself and you're studying by yourself, start to look out there, and you're going to try a couple of communities, and you might not fit with the first one, or you might go to a meetup and you might just not click. But it might take a couple of tries, but once you find that community, it's going to be magical for you in your career. So really get yourself out there.
Definitely. And like I said, there's a lot of amazing communities. In the description down below is my Discord community. Eric has been nice enough on YouTube, and I believe this should have live replay on. So if you're watching after the fact, watching a replay, his Discord channel should be in the chat. If not, Eric, send me a link. I'll put it in the description. Actually, I think you're an admin on my YouTube, so you might be able to put it in the description. But either way, Raices, Hacker Valley Media is another great one. They've been huge for me lately in terms of just the content I've been putting out. And then mine, and then I can't say enough about KevTech IT. His Discord and the things that he's doing, it doesn't matter who you are, this man is helping you get jobs. So please, I beg of you, check out KevTech IT. Otherwise, Eric, before I say my final words, go ahead.
All right. Well, tomorrow we have on the Discord, we have a talk about building community, building your networking with Makeshift. So come join us on the bio link that's below here, bio.link, Rises Cyber. Join our Discord. It's at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. It's going to be really great talk, and that's part of our Summer of Cyber cyber education that we have, and we're doing some amazing things in the next couple of weeks for DEF CON and Black Hat. We are building a team right now to go to the US Cyber Games charity battle. So it's going to be a CTF. It's going to be broadcasted, and we're standby in all our social media because we just had a big sponsorship. Actually, I can announce it right now. If you're all looking at that game, The World of Haiku, they just sponsored the Rises team. So
Hoorah.
We've got a new sponsor. So it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful couple weeks. So please follow us on raicescyber.org on Twitter, on raicescyber.org on LinkedIn, and on our website, raicescyber.org.
Awesome. Hey, we're going to have to talk about that. But anyways, look, it's been a great show. Stacy, thank you once again for joining us. It's been amazing having you on. Should anything change, should anything come up, please, I'd love to have you back on if there's ever anything else you want to talk about, or if you just happen to take Hacker in Heels even bigger and want to broadcast it out. By all means, you're more than welcome to come on here anytime. We'll get you scheduled. Before I go, Griffin InfoSec, Skull, brother, thanks for putting that in there. Love you. It's been a great episode. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. For all those listening on podcast, please give me a rating, review. You know, that always helps. Share it. Hey, share this video. That'd be fantastic. Otherwise, y'all have a good one, and I'll see you all next week.